All right, we're recording. What's up, man?
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming down, man.
Absolutely no problem.
So you do the Form of Passion podcast.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing that for?
That started in May of 2019. So I guess a year and a half ish at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
why did you start it? What did you want to gain from it, or what was your purpose with it?
Well, I'd been in a band for a long time. Long time being like 8 to 9 years. And we had broken up earlier that year. And my intention post that band was to kind of just like chill out and just kind of like book shows and maybe not do any more music, and like work on like festival stuff. But I found myself kind of like I didn't do well with like the free time. Like I needed to do something. I'm not really good at like relaxing. Mm-hmm. So I listened to this film podcast called the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. And he's like my favorite writer, and I'm really into movies, so I would listen to that and like really enjoyed it. And I was like, this would be like, and before we started recording, we were talking about it. His format was he'd have like a monologue in the beginning, and then interview somebody in the film industry, be it a producer, writer, actor, actress, what have you. And I thought this would be interesting to do for hardcore punk and metal. And I was like, all right. I was like, maybe we can try this out. I had access to a studio from recording band stuff, and it, not like some planning went in there, but not like a ton. It was kind of like, let's try this out, and then it just has worked out since. I think one thing, the intention behind making it was that I wanted to. When it comes to making music and being involved in whatever, in my opinion, not everybody on the street gets the appeal of being in the music where it's people yelling at you. And I think getting to a point where like that's where you feel natural, comfortable, that's where you thrive. There's got to be a story behind that, because it's just not every like Tom, Dick, and Harry like does that. So I find people's stories on finding the scene and finding that world interesting and why they stick around. I find that interesting and what they're getting out of it. Thus the name, Form of Passion, a discussion about the passion that.
Yeah, well, you talk about how hardcore was a place for you to learn and to teach. And, when I see your posts on Instagram or just listen to Breakaway or listen to MAD, listen to your Form of Passion podcast, mm-hmm. I can see that is a fitting name, because you do have a lot of passion in what you do. You do, like, I can see your spirit is really in these things. It's not just, it's a big part of you. It's like you identify with it. It's almost like you could say everything to you. And like, in terms of hardcore being a place to learn and to teach, and you talk about how there's certain bands where they have a big impact on, like, a lasting impression on how your emotion was at that moment, or you take it with you as you go. Do you hope to give a kind of platform to further that even more than you can with a song through a podcast?
Sure. And that's a good, observation on that. Like, for me, I was also, and I'm not like gonna name like anything, but like I was also seeing like kind of like a lack of like representation when it came to different people, like different people's backgrounds in hardcore punk and metal, like being represented in like the podcast sphere and some other places. I did an episode one time with a dude who lived on the exact same street as me. Growing up, he's like maybe like a little less than 10 years older than me. Same street, went to the same high school, like did a lot of the same stuff, but his experience was different than mine because he was a black man and I'm a white man. Mm-hmm. And like I think kind of like showcasing like things like that, like the stories of people that are, like either like a woman or like a person of color, what have you. I wasn't seeing like a lot of that out there, and that wasn't really my initial intention on making Form. I was just like, I want to hear the stories of people that I think are cool. Mm-hmm. But it turned into, it's like, oh, like I want to hear like stories about like people's experiences in the world that like I would never understand. Yeah. I would never understand. You talked to me before we started recording about how you found Form through like the Seb episode, and I think that's like a a prime example of him growing up as like a person of color, like around like here in like New York and stuff. And like me, like my story is completely different than that, you know, and I want to hear those stories, and I want other people to hear those stories, and I want people to be able to be like, oh, I'm listening to somebody whose life is like mine, and I identify with that, and it bring them closer to like that person and that person's art. So
yeah, it's it's been a common theme on this show also, because we interview like graffiti writers, and a lot of them, graffiti is a certain thing where you just see the writing on a wall. People have an idea of what that person could be, what ethnicity he could be, what age he could be, what gender, anything. But when they come on a show and they actually speak, what they have in mind, what they live with, because it's not just a name on a wall. There's a person behind it with like hobbies, thoughts, ideas of everything. And I think it's amazing to provide a platform where that person can show their character, and it's not just spray paint,
Yeah, no, and
so it's
I think
amazing
that's really
what you're
cool.
doing too. It's like you said, it's not just people screaming into a mic. There's a whole life behind that, and it's interesting to listen to.
Precisely, and from a graffiti perspective, it's really interesting because it's like you don't even
know their voice.
You don't even know their voice.
Yeah.
You don't know what they look like unless you're like in the world. Like
Yeah.
like you're right. You're seeing writing on the wall. Like if I'm like driving up here and I see writing on the wall or whatever, I know nothing about that person other than the name they put on a wall. So there's a whole like other level of mystery and everything to it. So yeah, I mean, it's like what y'all are doing in that regard is like really cool too, because otherwise you're not getting that story pretty much anywhere unless you're in the culture.
Yeah. How was your experience in hardcore, from getting into it to realizing what exactly it is and all of that? Because you're showing the other people's experiences all the time, and sometimes you get a little glimpse of yours. But how was it from when? How old were you? Like, how did this all play out?
Well, me getting into hardcore is honestly a bit of a story of defiance, and defiance against the world that was around me, but also defiance against the hardcore scene that was around me at the time. I got into punk music when I was about 14 because of like a childhood friend that had showed it to me and wanted me to play in his punk band because I just started playing bass. And I didn't really like hardcore because I thought it was too fast. I didn't understand. I was like, these people are like speaking or singing too fast. I don't know what they're saying. I can't like understand the music. My ear had not like kind of like gotten to a point where I could take that in. I even like I went to my first hardcore show at 15 and I like didn't like it. Like I went to see this band Direct Control, who I now love. This band Are You Fucking Serious, and Agent Orange played. And I went with my friend because I knew Agent Orange from the Tony Hawk video game. And I was like, okay, like, which is, it's crazy. On forum, I've interviewed so many people that's how they got into hardcore. They heard like they heard hardcore music on those games and were like, oh, like I like this, whatever.
Bloodstains.
Yeah, Bloodstains, exactly. So I liked that song. And I was like, oh, I want to go see that song. Funny thing, his mom said we had to go home before they even played. So I didn't get to see him. But I don't understand. Like, they're playing so fast. I don't like get this or whatever. And I also had some, like, I ended up having like personal beef with some people in the scene as well, because there was a really weird show at like a high school where like these dudes like in the scene like tried to like fight my friend's dad, and I like chased after a couple of them with a knife, which is funny because I was never gonna do anything with I was never gonna do that. I was never gonna stab anybody. That's not like the type of person I am. But I was 16 and thought I was like hot shit or whatever, and that started I'm gonna say in retrospect a brief history of beef with me and some like local hardcore people, whatever, which further pushed me to being like, I don't like hardcore. I'm only a punk dude. I don't like this stuff or whatever. But eventually, like, my friend would be like, he would show me bands like Dead Kennedys or Bad Brains, and I'd be like, well, I don't hate this. And then, like, I think I heard Youth of the Day at some point and like Minor Threat, and I was like, I kind of like all this. And he's like, yeah, I think you like hardcore. You just like don't like some people locally or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And so throughout high school, I would like sporadically go to like punk shows and stuff. And towards the end of high school, I started going to like like more hardcore stuff. So like I saw like Gnostic Front somewhere in there. Then my 18th birthday, I went to like a Down to Nothing show at a coffee shop, and everybody, like, a lot of people there were like not very happy to see me, but there's Down to Nothing, Trash Talk played, this band Meltdown, and I think Trapped Under Ice played as well. They were really new and they opened, but I missed them, and like I just got kind of like hooked at that show, especially because it was, for me, it was like, I was like, yo, no one's going to tell me where I can and can't be. If these people don't like me, like, whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want. You can't really like tell me what to do. So I started coming around like more regularly, but in Richmond there was also a separate hardcore scene from like kind of like to break it down like this, kind of feel like there was like kind of like your jock hardcore scene, which I definitely identify with because I played football and stuff and everything. And there was like also like super straight edge, which I was and am now. So I identified with that, but I had more friction over there with people. And there was another scene that was like more like 80s revival. It was like more like bands that were trying to sound like Adolescents and like the FUs and like Poison Idea. It was like hardcore, but it was definitely punk.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I didn't really like identify with the people as much over there, but I went to more of that stuff for a while. And somewhere in like, so that was 2007. 2009, I kind of made like I kind of inched more towards the kind of the jockier side and just kind of had like my feet planted in kind of both realms. And that, I would say 2009 is where I really was like, yo, I'm like, I've been playing in bands and stuff, but I was like, yo, I'm like really into this, and like this is my world, and I'm gonna like immerse myself in this, and I've been doing that since. So that was kind of like my origin story up to that point.
And then, you know, you're super into straight edge and shit, man. When did you ever have an experience with drugs and alcohol, or was it just how did that come about?
So actually, no. I've never like drank, never smoked anything. I've never done like any pills. I was a like pretty sheltered kid. Like it was just like me and my mom. My dad was in my life too, but I only saw him like some of the time. And you know, I was like, and still am like pretty dorky and like nerdy and stuff. Like, and I had friends, but they were also like dorky and nerdy and like into like video games and comics and toys and things, and like nobody had any like interest in like drinking or partying or anything like that. So I never like got into it. Nobody ever handed me a beer. Nobody ever like gave me a cigarette or something like that. And so and also in tandem, the idea to me, I was like, I'm not into like, I didn't like the idea of not being in control and like cognizant of what I was doing. So I still don't like the idea of like, not like I have a control problem where I want to be in control of everything that like my name is on. I need to work on that. But so I was actually pretty reluctant to call myself straight edge for a while because I didn't like people in the hardcore scene. Mm-hmm. And I had like this punk friend of mine, Ryan, who he was straight edge, and he was like, "Are you straight edge?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I don't." I was like, by like definition, yes, but no, I don't call myself that. And eventually, I got to a point when I was 16 where he was like, "Dude, you're just like you like those bands and like you live that lifestyle. You just are straight edge." And I was like, "Okay." Which is funny that it was kind of like a reluctant thing, and then I would end up like singing about it later.
Because now it's something that you have, it's super in you.
A lot of pride.
Why is it something that there's so much pride in as opposed to just a choice of like, for example, like let's say that someone abstains from, I don't know, soda, but there's no like, I don't drink soda, this is who I am. Right. It's just like a choice. Whereas for a lot of people, including yourself, straight edge is like, it's not like this is you. Yeah.
Great question. Outstanding question. I think there's a societal expectation and promotion and a culture behind certain levels of indulgence. And as I've gotten older, I've become like far more like accepting and like cool with just like, yo, man, like live your life. I'm gonna live my life. Like, at one point in time, when I was younger, I felt very ostracized from a lot of people in like my school and stuff. The people that were like, albeit I was like playing football and like sports and so like lifting weights and like hanging out around people that were like your typical like movie like jock partier person. I never identified with any of them, and I didn't identify with their values. And like a lot of the stuff that they were really into, I was like, I don't want anything to do with. I don't want to identify with any of that. And I was very proud to not be a part of that, to not be a part of the herd.
Mm-hmm.
And still now it's like, you know, I'll go to work, kind of to your point about soda. I'll go to work and like I'll ask somebody like, how was your weekend? And they're like, oh man, I got like really drunk off whiskey on Saturday or whatever. And that's fine, but nobody would ever be like, I drank so much soda Saturday. There's like there's like a cultural connotation behind it where people use this to like identify with like one another and be on like the same playing field. And I just think at this point, I'm not even like as defined about things. I just think it's kind of strange. And I'm sure somebody could say the exact same thing about me from the other perspective, which is fine. It's just like I guess I was just like, you know what, like in my 20s and while I was doing Breakaway, I was like, I'm different, and I'm proud of this, and if you're proud of this too, and you're like, you know what, like I'm getting through each day entirely aware of my surroundings, entirely aware of what's happening to me. I feel my highest highs, I feel my lowest lows, and nothing increases or decreases either of those. If you're proud of that, these songs are for you. And if that's not how you live your life, that's fine.
Yeah.
We got other songs that aren't about that, kind of thing, even though that was like a big part of Breakaway. So I look at things, it was at one point in time, it was way more like I'm going against the grain. And now it's way more like, I got my grain, you got your grain, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just like you're more, like you said, accepting. Do you think it creates this, it sets you on this path where I don't know how to explain it. I guess like when a lot of people who drink alcohol to a large extent and I'd say abuse these kinds of substances, it's a part of it is to dull the pain of everyday life. So you can kind of silence that thing that's going on. If you got problems at home, or if you have problems with your relationship problems, or whatever is happening in your life, you feel like you can just drown it out by doing something that significantly alters your state of consciousness, and then you don't feel it anymore. But do you feel like, as someone who's just, that's an absolute no under any and all circumstances, do you feel like you're just like facing reality in a stronger way?
Also, good question. Kind of what I said earlier in regards to doing forum. It's like now I've, as time has gone on, I've become way more understanding of, it's like not everybody grew up the same way as me. Not everybody experiences the same things as I do, and I don't experience things the same way as they do. I feel a certain level of, I don't even know what the right word is. I don't even consider it. I don't even at this point, because I've been this way for so long, technically my whole life, if we're going technical, I don't even like think about like facing things under like a different lens of reality. It's just like things are what they are, and that's that. Other people, you're gonna handle things how you want to handle it. I just, for everybody, I just like hope that how they're handling things is in a way that they deem as like positive and helpful, and everything, and is doing them a benefit. So whatever that may be for somebody, kudos to you. Obviously, like we know people can go overboard on things where the cure becomes worse than the ailment. And I think one thing about all that too is that you augment your reality. If you're augmenting your reality because you got problems, and nobody wants to hear this, but if you're augmenting your reality because you got problems, it doesn't mean the problems are going away.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that you feel differently about them for a time period. I am not lambasting anybody for doing that. I understand. But if you're going from a practical sense, this goes for anybody, any type of walk of life, any kind of background or whatever. You know, I mean, like, but then again, it's like weird because now I'm thinking about like people that are like prescribed things like Prozac or whatever and what have you. And I had a friend talk to me recently that moved to a state where he can't afford his prescriptions because it's so much higher there, and he can't afford like therapy and stuff. And he, you know, he needs that stuff. Yeah, I just think it's just like there's a line between like being aware and medicating in a way that you need to medicate and going overboard, you know. And I can't. And I think at one point in time in my life I was super definitive on a lot of stuff, and now all I can really say is I know what works for me.
Yeah.
You know. And I guess if you're aware of something that works for you in a positive, healthy sense, then, you know, whatever that may be, rock with it.
Yeah. No, talking about substances that are more accepted, like cigarettes and, you know, alcohol, for example, I see that firsthand because I work as a plumber, and, you know, these dudes, they take like, I don't know, man, like 10 cigarette breaks a day within an 8-hour period. And then, you know, after work, you know, they drink a bunch of beers, and on the weekend they talk about how much beers they drank, and these beers are related to just like watching TV, every normal activity, you know.
Yeah. It's almost like the beers are related to like being a man and like having fun,
That
actually
whole thing
enjoying life. Like,
Yeah,
on the weekend I did like, et cetera, and it's said in a boastful manner.
No, it's related to kicking back and enjoying, you know, your day off in a way. But you know, these things add up, and I see, like I said, firsthand, the quality of life significantly diminishes. And it's not like a conspiracy. It's you know, it's proven, you know, you can tell, and these people know it themselves. You know, everyone that smokes, how many times do they say, I need to stop smoking, I need to stop smoking? You know, these dudes I work with, they carry material upstairs, or they're under a sink or something, and they can't do much, and they're like, oh, I gotta stop smoking, I gotta lose weight, I gotta stop drinking the beers. You know, it's just sad to see that it becomes such an addictive thing that, you know, it's kind of accepted in society. It's a whole business, you know.
And there's, I mean, if we get into like the business aspect of it, I mean, it's a machine in that way. I mean, that's, you know, it's the kind of thing where it's like what you're talking about is true, or, you know, it's like it becomes like a norm for people and stuff, and it doesn't matter your background. There's people that, you know, you could be like a union worker and you know, like drink a lot, or, you know, or whatever you or what have you. I work in the roofing industry. And you know, that's like sometimes known for people like, you know, like abusing certain like substances, like and stuff. I haven't witnessed it any firsthand, but I hear about it. And you know, and there could be somebody who like comes from, you know, someone who's like I don't know, like a retail worker, or somebody that works for like Fortune 500 and like data like work or something like that. It really, that kind of stuff really permeates, I think, throughout any type of background, really. And you know, it's just like, I ain't ever gonna tell anybody what to do. I'm in like a band with people that like love drugs, and you know, and it's like, yo, but they're like safe and like healthy, you know, about it or whatever. So it's like, it's cool. There's like I said, there's a line. There's a way to do things, and there's a way that could end up being like detrimental. That's with like a lot of things too, though. You know, like that, like, you know, it's like you can go outside and drive a car, get in a car accident, you know, kind of thing.
There's also this idea that that's pretty prevalent in hardcore. That's like someone just starts going to shows, and the idea could be from people who've been going to shows for a while, like, oh, you're not really down, you're not, or even if someone just claims edge. Obviously, there is this like cool factor that does play a part in some people, but at the end of the day, if you think that abstaining from drugs and alcohol is a positive choice, then I've never really fully, I understand where it comes from, but I've never really fully agreed with the thought process of like shunning a person because they're, I guess, like a beginner in this certain scene or aspect.
Oh, it's so stupid.
When if anything, you should be like welcoming, because how the fuck like, what are they doing wrong? Everyone starts at some point. You know what I'm saying? I get that people come in and drop out for whatever their reasonings are, but like also people are young and finding themselves in life. So, you know, if someone starts, let's say, skating and like they think they think they love it, they're fucking what the 13, 14-year-old kid.
they're
They don't
your
know
kids,
themselves.
you know. Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Be like, oh, you're not a skater. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like that's the thing too, because there was definitely a point in time in my life where I was like very like if scrutinous is a word, like I would scrutinize a lot of like newer people and be like, who's that? I don't know them, like, you know, whatever. I'm not gonna talk to them, you know, kind of things, like, because I don't know them, and I wasn't very welcoming, and I was kind of softer by comparison to other people I knew in that regard, and yeah, and then as time got on, I got older and got more mature. I was like, that's so fucking stupid. Like, why would you not, like, welcome people? And then, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if somebody comes around and they're like it for a couple years and then it's not their thing. I remember I used to be, like, so put off by that when I was younger. And I guess because I care so much.
Yeah, so you feel like how can they just come into like this thing that's everything to me, hop in, I'll never mind hop out, I'll never mind hop in.
Yeah.
But it's so sacred to you.
Yeah, precisely. And now I'm like, man, like everybody's got like a different path with this. Like, you know, it's like maybe this is for you, maybe it isn't, you know, and yo, man, that's fine. Like, I one of my best friends had an incredible conversation with me one day about why he didn't come around anymore to like gigs and stuff. And he said he was like, I didn't like that environment didn't make me a better person. And he was like, I didn't like myself in kind of in regards to my participation, and I didn't like how I felt about certain things, you know, and what have you, and it was very toxic for him. Not everybody's gonna have the same experience,
Of course.
you know, like, and he was like, I like my life a lot better now not being involved. Now me, like, you know, like punk, metal, hardcore, that's my life. So it's like I like myself being involved, but not everybody's gonna be the same. And if you see like a young kid at a gig, you know, guy, girl, you know, whoever, person, like, it means a lot to have somebody extend a hand and be like, hey, like, what's up? You know, because I remember when I was younger, you know, I was there and I was experiencing a lot of friction, but I never forgot the people that were cool to me. You like you people will remember that. I remember, like, there's a dude that lived in Richmond that lives up here now. He's an elevator like union worker. This dude, Big Brett. He was like really cool to me when I was first coming around. This dude D Wood was really cool to me when I was first coming around. This guy Brandon Farrell, rest in peace. He was really cool to me when I was first coming around, and that is literally like 17 years ago. And I remember all those people.
You think that the friction almost made you appreciate those people more?
100%, because they didn't owe me anything. They didn't know me. I'm some teenager. But they chose to be cool to me. It's like to like bite size it. Choose to be cool. Like make the choice to be chill to people. Because it's like, what are you getting from not? You know.
Yeah, I see that in not only in hardcore, but just in every aspect of like life, where there's a group of people and there's like a certain you know, community. Because like in graffiti it's the same thing. If you're a toy and you go into the graffiti world, you're shit on, you know, like nobody wants to help you. They want you out of there. They don't want you taking their spots. They don't want you to be a part of that culture.
They don't want you next to them.
Yeah, or like
they don't want to see your trash work next to their like beat stuff.
Or even like relating it to plumbing. I remember when I first got in, I was non-union when I got in, and I remember I walked onto the job and this dude was threading a pipe on a machine, and I asked him, I was like, yo, what is that? You know, like, what are you doing? You know, I'm interested. Like, it's my first day. And I remember him not saying a word to me. He literally finished and walked away with the pipe. I was like, well, that guy's an asshole. All right, let me go see what this other guy's doing. I come up to the other guy. I'm like, and he was like screwing the pipe in, whatever. And I'm like asking him, you know, like, so how does this work? You know, like, what are you doing over here? Like, what kind of pipe is this? What are you working on? And he's just like, you know, like go help the other guy, like, you know, like go do the installation on the copper pipe. I'm like, wow, like this is how this is, you know, and in their
And this
mind,
is what I'm in for life is my career.
and in their mind, it's like job security. They don't want me learning quicker than them and taking their job, you know. So
True.
I understand that, but at the same time, the dude that did help me, that actually showed me what's up with a genuine smile, I'll never forget that guy.
Yeah.
And like one day, who knows how the tables will turn? You know, he might be looking for a job, and I'll be a boss, and I'll be like, I want that guy instead of that fucking guy that ignored me. You know,
this dude is out of work or whatever like that. Like he can come, you know, like we can come work together because he showed me the ropes, and I know he does good work. And like, yeah, I mean, no, it's. People's, I get why people's guards are up about certain things, but at the same time, it's like, you know,
at the end of the day, we're just human. Like, come on, it's not that serious.
Like it isn't, dude. Like you know,
it's
and
basic human conversation.
Yeah, especially now where we live in and stuff like that. It's just like, you know, like try to put some positive energy out there. You know, like because there's not a ton of it. So putting it out there, you'll eventually get it back, if not immediate. But yeah, you know, so it's that's the thing is, and I can imagine graffiti as well, like, you know, especially kind of in the sort of like the illicit nature of that world too. It's like, oh, like, you know, if you're new and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're gonna blow a spot up or something like that, and it's gonna come down on other people, and you're gonna screw things up for other people. And with hardcore, it's like, oh, if you're new, maybe you make a band that sounds like fucking garbage. Now, on the other side of the coin, just because like I like hardcore punk and metal is like my world and I know it. Mm-hmm. One thing that does I think need to happen less is there's some stuff, and music is objective, sure, but there's some stuff that comes out that people will be like, oh, this sounds great, and it doesn't sound great. And like you'll hear some demos like that are like new or whatever, and it doesn't sound good. You should praise quality, encourage participation, but you know, like don't say something that is like not very good is like awesome just because you know somebody in the band or something like that. You don't have to say anything negative, but I see some things get like pumped up sometimes, and I'm like, yo, this is not a good demo, or like this is not a good track, and people are like, oh, this is like. And people love hyperbole now, or they'll be like, "Oh, this is a game changer track," and it's like, I think the game is probably still exactly the same. I don't think this track changed the game or anything like that. Like this record of the year, and it's like, I also don't believe that either. But I don't really know the right answer there. But I see people kind of like gatekeep, and that bums me out, especially as time has gone on. I like that less. But then I also see people like. Whatever the opposite of that is, where it's like everything. It's like telling your kid, like if you have a kid, being like, everything you do is good, like everything you create is amazing,
which is just
like,
not true.
Which isn't true, and encourages like bad habits, like being like, I mean, not publicly because you don't want to embarrass people, but you know, being like. Maybe like you hear somebody puts out something and be like, yo, on the next thing y'all do, maybe you should try this. Like you turn it into like a positive or something like that. Try to help out, you know? Or
just improve overall long-term quality.
Yeah. Like, have you ever tried doing like your vocals like lower as opposed to higher? Or like, oh, like tell me about y'all's guitar player. Like what's he going on? Or like, you know, like just little. So there's ways to be constructive. Probably, and it's probably the same way with graffiti, I imagine, too, where it's like if you got like an old head or something like that, like showing you stuff as opposed to just being like, this is a world you want to be in, and just someone being like, oh, your shit's trash, fuck you, I'm going over everything you're doing, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, because it's like, what's the point? Like, what, you just want to be the only writer out there? Like, you know, or just the people that you know? Like,
well, in terms of the bands, you know, you did Breakaway, you do MAD. I'm not sure if you've ever been in any bands before. I assume that you've taken part in some sort of other projects.
Like high school stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like, and, you know, hardcore's been such a big part of your life. What do you think that it's done for you in your life? I know you've met a ton of friends through it. I'm sure you've traveled the world just like everyone else. But in terms of helping you find yourself as who you are and your place in this society.
So... what hardcore has done for me in that regard is I have learned more practical skills from promoting, putting together records, selling records and shirts, and just interacting with different types of people than I ever did from college or any job. Like, I have learned way more from like routing tours and like setting that stuff up on my own and interacting with people in like other countries and stuff to like set things up over there and all that. I've learned way more doing that than I did. Like, I mean, I worked at UPS in their corporate headquarters for freight for 9 years. I learned way more from playing music than I ever did from sitting at a desk analyzing data. Like, that was very static. Working in the world of music and show promotion and all this stuff, and podcasting is way more dynamic. Yeah, I mean, like,
You feel like you've been learning through the podcast?
I still do. I mean, I think the greatest thing you can do is continue to learn every day, like, all the time. I think that's the day you stop learning, or the day you close yourself off to new ideas or new practices or what have you, is the day you're essentially dead. Because it's like you are frozen in time at a certain point. I think you got to be open and to like new ideas, new perspectives for other people and yourself. Because we're not always the same. We change throughout life. We're not like the person that y'all were 5 years ago is different than the person you are now. Like, kind of thing. And that's cool. And it's good. It's good to grow as long as you're growing, as long as you're going up. And that's the thing too, is I learned that from hardcore as well. Like, just like progression, always wanting to like do better, do more. I would hear like lyrics about like personal preservation and like, listening to like Youth of the Day as a kid and Righteous Jams, and like those dudes are talking about like being healthy and disciplined and taking care of themselves. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I was like an overweight kid. And I was like, like I'd like read about like the Misfits and how those dudes like worked out a lot. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to like start doing that. And like, that's, like, or I was already doing that, but I was like, I'm getting more into this. And yeah, it's like made me a healthier person there. Like
the District 9's push forward, start your own trend. Be a leader, take it from a friend.
Oh yeah, shout out D9.
So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got into them way later than I should have.
They're so good.
I liked there was one song I was like I Just Want to Live Life. I listened to that one a lot in college, but for whatever reason I didn't listen to the rest of the record. That was back in the time period though where like there wasn't streaming. So you would download. Sometimes you download stuff and it would only end up being like a song. Okay. And you put it on like a mix CD, and then you just did like, unless you were like really, really into it, you didn't you didn't download the rest of the record. So there was a lot of stuff in that time period where I was only acquainted with bands for like a track, and that was it. Then I heard Payback years later, and I was like, wow.
Time is now.
I was like, I really missed out. But yeah, man, like. Everything I'm talking about right now is very positive. I learned a lot of positive things from doing this, and like understanding different perspectives.
Well, that's one thing that you were saying in another show, that you were saying how in one room there could be people who are straight up convicted felons, in next to people who are just, I don't know, whatever, like
a Harvard grad or something.
Yes, yeah.
Like, like, not to say that you can't be both, but like. Yeah, interesting person if you are. But yeah, I mean, like you end up being in with a very dynamic demographic of people that it's kind of like when I did the podcast where I was like, I want to showcase the stories of people that are like completely like different from one another. Like I only like when I do episodes back to back where it's like people from the same place or like that are in similar bands. Like I want it to be like different. I want it to be like mixed up. And, just because it's you get, it's a beautiful world, and the fact that there are so many different stories, and they're all and like so many of them are so interesting.
I like the thought of I really like the thought of people who make bands, rent or buy a van, get all their friends together, book shows themselves, and then just start traveling the world or the country. All over, living this seemingly not possible fantasy life of like, but what about, like, questions start arising. What what did you have a stable job beforehand? Did you just say screw it, I'm out for a month? How could you say that? Could you even come back to the job? All these questions that everyday life could just, for example, you couldn't just be like, all right, I'm up and out. But then there's so many people who live life by their own terms.
Yeah.
Ray Kappa got up 22 years old and went to be a monk out of nowhere.
It's just like pieced out. I was like living here, and yeah, I mean, and that's so. And to that effect, what was for me, I couldn't. I made it work with my confines. I never like of all the bands I've been doing for as long as I've been doing them, the longest stint I've ever been out was like 11 days. It was in Europe. We never. I had to, like, when I made Breakaway, I had to work to live. Like I had to, like, I had like a job, and was like out of school, like was like living on my own, and another guy in the band had had children, so we were like, all right, we're just gonna hit it hard, going on like weekend trips and like going to festivals, driving or flying to festivals and playing, and just try to play in front of as many people as we can without doing like the full US thing, because we can't afford to do that as people. And that's the thing. It's like there's some people out there that are like, well, like I can't, like I want to make a band, but we're not gonna be able to tour that much because of X, Y, or Z. You can make it work. Yeah. I would fantasize though, because I would read books when I was younger, like get in the van and be like, wow, like this guy's like, he like lives in like a fucking shed, and then like the rest of his life he's just like fucking out there, like, you know, like chilling, like, or not really chilling. He wasn't really chilling at all.
It seems chilling when you read about it.
His was more like slowly losing his mind, but but being on the road in other countries and stuff, and being very into that, and that was like really cool, and yeah, it's just like, and I would be jealous of some of my friends that would like be like on like these like long tours or whatever, but like that happens way less now anyway. The model, because of the internet, you can get out there a little bit more. I feel like the model is people do shorter stuff now, but still, the something that there's a magic to. You talk about getting a van and getting in there with people. A magic to me has always been, hey, we're gonna go like whatever band I'm in, like we're gonna go play the show in like Philadelphia or something, and like just sending like a signal out to like the scene and be like, who wants to come? We're just gonna fill the van up with people from home and go all there together. And that's like the camaraderie of that, and like bringing people, you know, like with you, and doing that has always been like really cool to me. Like I like that a lot. Like, you know, just like being out there with people in your community and stuff, and bringing a flavor from where you're from to other places. Yeah, I mean, you don't get that in a lot of other worlds, really.
Well, that's why hardcore is so different from all the other music genres, man. Yeah. It is insanely different. Like, it's not like that with any other music genre that I, at least not to my knowledge, where there's actual, like, for example, if I walk down the street and I see someone who listens to, let's say, Mobb Deep, I don't really care. And I don't really like.
I was listening to Mobb Deep on the way here.
There's no like, I don't know how to, you know.
No, exactly. You see somebody in a fucking dog. If I see it's weird. Like, Metallica's one of my favorite bands, but if I see somebody in a Metallica shirt, I'm probably not gonna say anything to them. And that's like still metal, you know. But if I see somebody in like, I don't know, like a Floor Punch shirt, I'm gonna be like, yo, what's up? Like, good shirt, you know. I saw some dude with like I didn't know, at like a convenience store in Richmond, he had like an X watch on, and I was like, yo, like, me too, you know. I had mine on at the time. I was like, me too. And he was like, I didn't know who he was. And it's like, I love that, seeing somebody in like some yeah, you know, I feel like you don't, unless like it's like an obscure metal band or something, or an obscure punk band, like I don't see that as much. Like, I like hip hop a lot, but if I like was like, if I saw somebody in like a 3-6 shirt, I'm not gonna be like, yo, like, nice dude, like, yeah. I love Underground Volume 1. They're probably gonna be like, what, dude? I like the song like Stay Fly. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, me too, I guess, but you know, so it's like, that's different that way. You're right.
With Breakaway, you had this lyric that was talking about how you should maintain your body as strong as your mind. Yeah. And I know you're into weightlifting. Mm-hmm. What's up with that? When did you get into weightlifting?
So I played football when I was younger, kind of reluctantly. I like didn't really like it that much, but I grew up around it. My father was really into his college team. He went to NC State, so I'd go to a lot of football games there. and he and my mom got me in football when I was like 9, and I like didn't. I was always kind of an angry person, and I liked the idea of being aggressive and like tackling people and stuff and like that, because that's how I felt. Like I wanted to do that to people on the street, you know. But I was like playing that, and then like I got into high school, and like the training got so intensive and stuff, and like it was like taking a lot out of me. But like I knew like because of my parents, I had to play. They got us. I had started weightlifting when I was 13 with my dad, and because he would work out at this like club downtown, and I'd go there with him. And then as football ramped up in seriousness, they got us in the weight room more there, and I realized that I was naturally pretty strong for my age. And I was also like not in very good. My physical shape was not. I wasn't in great condition, and like one day I kind of realized I was like, oh, like all this like working out has benefited my body a lot. I feel better about myself. And also like I was like a dork, you know, and I like didn't like how inadequate I felt around a lot of people in my high school. And I really did get to a point where I was like, I'm gonna get like big enough to the point where people are like scared to like make fun of me or like look at me a weird way or say something that I don't like. And that was like a big factor in like getting really into it. Is I was like, I want people in my school to be like scared of me. And like I was building up muscles. I was like wearing like tighter shirts and stuff because I was like, I want people to like know that I'm big, and like maybe I won't like, you know, like I didn't have the temperament at the time to like fuck people up, like that sort of like lack of control and anger came later in a more intense way. But at the time I wanted to be intimidating. Like I feel like I like permanently like fuck myself up in regards of like I feel like I have like a resting bitch face sometimes, because at the time I think that came from when I was younger. I like try to put a scowl on my face so people like wouldn't approach me and stuff. So I got really into weightlifting then, and that just kind of continued. So it's kind of like a negative thing at the time, but as time went on, I was like, oh, this is just good for like being healthy and being strong, and like especially as you get older, it's like you see people like I'm like a little. I'm 31, so I'm like a little into my 30s. You see people kind of go on and their bodies start to kind of fail, and I was like, I don't want that to be me.
Bone density too. Weightlifting is amazing for that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, and it's good. Just like maintaining, like, you know, like that. I mean, like when I wrote like that song, that was like a really like fun, like almost like kind of like silly song. Some breakaway stuff was.
I really like that song.
It was fun as shit. It was like
strong as your mind.
Actually, yo, it's funny.
Yeah.
Jordan was just here, and the idea from that song, writing it, came from a Rude Awakening song. They had a song
really?
on the demo, "Towing the Line," that I was
so
like,
good.
Yo, that song rocks. So okay, damn, I fucking forgot about this. Strong Body, Strong Mind was me listening to Towing the Line, and I was like, oh, I like how short this is, and how it just kind of immediately goes into like a good dance part. And I was like, oh, I want to do that with like a breakaway song. And I didn't take any parts, but the idea was from Towing the Line. And just like at that time too in hardcore, like all my homies were like lifting weights and stuff, and like we were like all straight edge, so it was like, oh, this is like a song for that. Like before United Bloods, we'd all get together and lift weights. Like, yeah, I know like probably like now sounds like kind of homoerotic, but like it wasn't like that. It was just
sounds
like,
cool to me.
It was fun. It was like, you know, whatever. Like
I just picture myself reading about some history on Wikipedia. There being like a picture like that. In those now in the future, this picture looks super shitty. Yeah. But in that moment, it was a really good picture. And it's just like a bunch of people who would abstain from drugs and alcohol. They call themselves straight edge, would get together and lift massive amounts of weights. And I'd be like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I remember it was like me, this dude Tom Dom, he like sings for Trail of Lies and like does like this merch company called Gold Set Merch now. Like my friend Rashad, he's in Brace War. He's my barber. This dude Austin Lopez. It was like we were like the list was like pretty substantial. We all get together and it was just like it was a good time. It was a nice bonding experience, you know. Because that's the thing is when I was lifting and when I was in high school, I didn't really have that bonding experience with people. I was there with my football team, but I wasn't like really like hard homies with anybody.
So that's interesting though, because I'm just applying your lyric to your life, and you're talking about strong body, strong mind, and the weightlifting, the way that I'm kind of seeing it is kind of like the body part. I know you're really I just recently found out you're really into reading books.
Yeah.
And as am I, and then I also know you've written a few books. What was the books you've written about? What is Morning Songs about?
Morning Songs is a collection of short stories that I've been writing since I was like 21. Some of it was written in college, and then some of it came later. I'm trying to remember why I wanted to do that. I think I just wanted to, like, kind of were talking about like growing and trying things out, and everything. I was like, I just want to try to see if I can do this. And I like some of these stories, and I remember asking two groups of friends. I'd be like, who would you read stories about, like the people that we know? And they told me, like, they gave me names, and I just made up characters based off those people. And so you get a little group buy-in. People are like, oh, I kind of want to read the story about myself or whatever, or the story based on like me, or like the story based on somebody I know. And that was also kind of like another practice in like DIY type, because I published those myself. And what's weird, making a book super similar to making a record, because it's like you go to a studio and you record, and then you mix and master the songs, what have you. You sit them to a plant, and then they press them into a record. Writing a book is writing a manuscript, sending it to an editor. They like cut things out or say change this, what have you. You do that, and then you send it to a pressing plant, and they press the books. The process is super similar. Also, getting books into stores and stuff is super similar to getting records in stores. Like, you're contacting like local or smaller stores, being like, hey, like, I got these. Do you want to buy these off me wholesale and sell them in your store? Or just like doing a record, just like being like, hey, I got these records. Would you have them in your record store? Super similar process. Now, like that book, like, was very absolutely a first foray into writing, like things like short stories and stuff. I'd written a bunch when I was in school, but like, I'd change things if I could go back. But what's cool is, because that was a short story collection, there's one story in there that I really like the voice I used in that one, and I want to maybe write something in the future with that one. I think I was doing, it's kind of like going back to a record and hearing a song you liked and being like, this song is good. Whatever I do next, I want to make it more like this song. And then I did a poetry book in 2019. That was more therapeutic, and some of that stuff is like admittedly like a little trite, a little hackneyed, but like it was really, like, I was like romantically like really like sad. Like, I had been in a relationship that had like ended and was only involving myself that year up until the end of the year, and some kind of like negative interactions with like women and stuff. Like, I was like, I'd see like red flags and I'd gravitate towards them as opposed to avoiding them. And I was just like bummed out. I had a really rough year in like 2019, just like mentally. Like the MAD stuff got written in, and that was like way more personal. And so I was like, I want to write these poems and get this out. And I was like, if I can pour myself into this process, maybe I'll feel better about the content that I'm writing. And that 100% happened. The people that I sold more of the short story books, I think, because like hardcore is predominantly like dudes, for the most. It's definitely changed up since I was younger, but it's like people that are into like tougher music, and they're guys. So a collection of short stories that all had like dark undertones was more appealing than a collection of poetry about romance. So I like got rid of all the poetry books that I pressed, but I didn't press as many as I did the short story book.
How did you get into reading?
My father would read to me when I was younger, when I was going to bed. He'd read to me like pretty much every night I was at his house. And yeah, he read to me then, and I'm trying to remember when I kind of started going off on my own. I loved comics, manga, like, and just like I remember I read like not Archie comics, but like Archie, like the company would do like a Sonic comic series, and I really like Sonic with the Hedgehog, so I'd read those. And got into like fantasy-esque type stuff, you know, like, and then like your stock stuff like your Harry Potter or what have you. Like I remember reading that. And somewhere in there I wanted to be a teacher. So I went to school to major. They didn't have a teaching program at my school, but they had an English program. So I decided to major in English, and I started figuring out what I liked when it came to writing, which at the time was postmodern writers like Hemingway. And then I discovered that I was more into kind of like beat writers and later, so like Burroughs and like I don't know if you can consider Bukowski in there, but like Bukowski, some Ginsberg, and then got into Ellis, and you know, and then later like Hunter Thompson. I was finding people that would read their stuff and find commonality and be like, I feel the same way as this passage, and I would want to write like that. So yeah, it was predominantly just like I like storytelling. I started my podcast because I like people's stories. I wanted to showcase people's stories. I like making up like worlds and people and concepts and histories. And I think that just honestly stemmed from like being like really into video games as a kid and comic books and like cartoons and like Star Wars and stuff like that. To me, to this day, like I love stuff like that, and just wanted to create things, make stories. I forgot about this. I used to make comics when I was a kid. So I started making like paper. I would like draw them and like staple them together. I'd make like issues and comics, and I was a little boy, and like up until maybe like high school. And yeah, I would like draw those. They're probably, if I found it, they're probably really, really bad. But that's what I wanted to do just because I was like into that stuff. But yeah, just like a lot of different things. I liked a lot of like different stories and stuff, and wanted to make my own.
I think the reading and these books that people make is just straight up art.
Yeah.
On another level that it takes. Sometimes it's not on at first glance you don't really understand it, and then the more you really delve into it, you start to really open your eyes to like, yo, this is so sick.
Yeah.
This is actually really, really, really good. Like Hemingway stuff.
Oh,
you start reading it and it's like, yo, what is this? This is kind of like boring. And then the more you read it, and then you read the end, you're like, yeah, I don't really understand, but I just read like an actual masterpiece.
Oh, I mean, there's so much. This is honestly kind of annoying about him, but like he's incredible because of it. There's so much in his stories that is just not on the page at all. There's like in between, like his whole thing was like you know, people talk about like the iceberg method with him, where all he's presenting is a very like simple like aspect of the story, but there's so much more going on behind it. The Sun Also Rises is my favorite novel, and like that one's like that. One of my favorite short stories.
But that dude was also kind of crazy. A lot of these.
Most writers are.
Yeah.
You know, most writers are. I mean, like,
was he the one who lived in Cuba?
He did.
Because I went to his crib
in Cuba,
and I saw the inside and everything. It was really cool.
Yo, it's funny. I went to his crib in Key West.
Sick.
So like right there. Yeah, he lived in Cuba. He lived in Key West. He died. I can't remember where. I feel like somewhere like north. I can't, or somewhere cold. But yeah, like, yo, it was weird about his house in Key West. I don't know what the spot in Cuba was like, but he was really into cats. And he had all these cats at the spot in Key West. And they never got rid of the cats. So the whole family of cats just still exist. Like, their generations just still exist there. And they have a mutation where they have thumbs.
What?
If you look it up online, if you look up like Hemingway House Key West, there's cats everywhere when you go visit it. But yeah, if you like pick them up, they'll like grab onto you with like a full hand. They have like thumbs. They have an additional digit in their hands.
Yeah, it's like his ghost. Like
Yeah,
all
like-
the
like-
all like the knowledge and craziness went into those cats.
Yeah,
It's
there's like not like 3, there's like 30. There's so many of them.
That's funny.
But they're like nice. They're just like they're all like lazy. They're all just like laying
in
around.
Cuba, there's so many cats too.
Really?
It's
Oh,
strange.
so you probably love that shit because he was like a fisherman like guy. So like I know he would go to Cuba for that. Old Man in the Sea was based in Cuba. Yeah, I mean, he's like, I don't know, man. I could talk about him for a long time. I took a course about him in college.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
Sick.
like, and like learned a lot. Like, I don't dislike a lot of his writing. I think the only thing that I was kind of like, I finished and I was like, the Garden of Eden or East of Eden. Eden's in the name. But yeah, he's killer. And Bukowski, albeit like in today's context, is probably incredibly reprehensible. Just because he was just like such a crazy misogynist. But his stuff is also awesome because it's just like that's his shit was punk rock writing. Like it was like I am a dirty old man and I have nothing going for me. I'm an alcoholic and I sit in my house in dirty clothes and don't do very much. And here is a whole novel about it and it's riveting. For whatever reason, it's like I wish I could read more. But no, I haven't written in a minute. But I want to. I've been trying to write a book, and I've drafted and even gotten part of a manuscript edited for this. But it's like oddly kind of hard to tackle because it seems like a lot of information. But for 8 months, I lived in a house in 2011, and 11 into 12, and it was like it was one of the most formative and like wildest times of my life living in that house. I live with Eric, who you mentioned like, when I got here. He's like one of my best friends in the world. He's like been in both Breakaway and MAD with me. I live with this guy Ched, who writes the music for that band Candy.
Okay.
So I live with him. I live with this dude Ian, who went on to do like music videos. He's done them for like Backtrack, Story So Far, Candy. Like does like a bunch of stuff. Works on film. I think he did some stuff with Woody Allen. I don't know if he wants people to know that, but and this guy Stuart. But just how focused we all were on like hanging out and making music and having fun and trying to do wild stuff every weekend was so cool. And we eventually, like, I don't want to like give too much away because like I want to write about this, but like we eventually got kicked out of that house by like detectives. And I want to write about just that 8-month stint of being there. So that's what I'm working on right now in regards to writing. I have no idea when I'm going to finish that or whatever.
I was working on a book too.
Yeah?
Which I lost, which sucks so bad.
How'd you lose it? What do you mean?
It was all I was literally writing it.
Yeah, I've done some of that
And I was
too.
gonna write so much and then reread it, draft it onto a computer, change it, and now it's lost.
You just can't find the notebook?
It's gone. It's 100% gone. I don't know where it is. And
That
that book had just
sucks.
other things in it too, just besides just the book I was writing. But it was just pretty much it was just like on some immutable principles type shit.
Got you.
But it was
Dude.
like deeply, like I had deeply thought out like what I thought the meaning of life is that can apply to like many different people,
Cool.
not just like my meaning,
Yeah.
as well as like my thoughts on, let's say, sleep or my thoughts on fasting. It would be like a book that people would only care about when I died.
Interesting.
Like on some like, yo, this dude was insane, but he's only insane because like we found his book like once he died. But it's one of those things that in my eyes wouldn't have gained appeal until someone passes and then they
Later.
find it one of those things. Yeah.
Maybe, but I mean, at the same time, it's like people want like different perspectives on living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think some of that stuff is like people want to hear, and like you know, like oh, like this is like I don't know this person, but this is their perspective on. I have this friend Vladimir who's really into like. How to explain this? He's in this band Downfall back home. He is really into eliminating things from his life and then seeing how it works out for him. And some of it's really weird. Some of it like makes sense. Like he'll do like dopamine fasts where he'll like leave all his group chats and like delete all like the apps on his phone and just not interact with the world for like a week just to see like how he
It reminds me of like gene testing. When you
Yeah.
want to see what a gene does, knock it out and see what is no longer present.
precisely. That's what Vladimir does. He'll eliminate these things and then see how it does. Like he like doesn't jack off. Like that's the funny one. He like he won't do. He's like really into like lifting and he like does like Muay Thai and stuff.
So there's like semen retention, you're saying?
Yeah.
So,
So he does that where he's like not like and
so he's like a monk beast.
yo honestly yes.
That's so sick.
And like yeah, he's like this like really tall like Russian kid back in Richmond. Great musician. He's filled in for Breakaway a lot actually.
Sick.
And he filled in for actually the last MAD show that happened before lockdown. He played that too because Eric couldn't make it. But he's really cool. And like it's just like yeah, he's like on like this weird, interesting like stuff or whatever. But like I'm not gonna do the stuff that he's gonna do, but somebody else might be like, oh, there might be something to this. This seems to be working for like this guy in a way like maybe I should like try like some of these things out like eliminating certain things from my diet, which like he does and stuff or like not trying to like inundate myself with information. So I mean I don't know. I mean it's like it's like life is long, and if you lost that notebook, that's unfortunate, but it's like you probably have different perspectives now than you did when you even lost it, even if you lost it yesterday as opposed to today. Might as well try it
starting
again.
over. No, I have been starting over.
There you go. That's all you can do, man.
The way I see, like in terms of Vladimir, doing all these different things, like going on dopamine fasts, not jerking off, doing all these things. The way I see it personally is life is, you said long, but in a way it's kind of short.
Sure.
And I feel like
Both statements are 100% true, actually.
there's so much to do in this life. There's so much like hobbies, places to go,
Things to learn,
things to try,
things to read.
learn. Yeah, so much to absorb.
Trades.
And like you said earlier, how people are fixated on maybe one opinion or one viewpoint of the world. I think it's a waste. It's like you said, like if you're fixated on something, like we just talked to Jordan, and he said fixation is the way to death. And
Smart man.
and when you reach that level of plateauing, like what's the point? There's so like our mind is limitless, and why not dwell in everything? Why not join different clubs or read different information and take what you can from other different sources?
Yes.
It's interesting. Like people like Vladimir, putting a shout out to him.
Yeah, he's cool. He's an interesting cat for sure. I mean, like it's kind of like what you're saying about kind of dwell on everything that's really solid because it's like, it is not limiting yourself to like it's like limit yourself to the universe. Don't limit yourself to anything less than that.
Shallow beliefs. Yeah.
Like it's like like try to like, and that's the thing is also you're gonna find stuff and be like, this isn't for me, and that's fine. Like it's like, and in fact it's good to be like, yeah, I tried this out or I looked into this and I don't care about this perspective or it doesn't benefit me at all, so I'm going to move on from it. To look at something without knowing it and being like, that's not for me, like ahead of time, is like, you might find something that you are into, but you're telling yourself that you won't be without actually like trying. And yeah, I mean, like you said, you alluded to something. My biggest fear in the world, other than like a few other things, but actually no, they're probably in tandem with one another, is stagnation. Is getting to a point where you live the same day over and over. You experience the same things over and over. The information that you get is the same information that you always get. That to me is like another form of death. Kind of like how he said, like Jordan said, like fixation is death. Like I think that to me is like such an unfortunate like thing, because it's like what's the point of even what's the point of even doing anything at that point? Like it's like nothing's gonna change.
Well, that's where the comfort comes in.
Yeah,
People get comfortable with the neutral plane.
Yeah.
So they don't want to try new things. They don't want to maybe fail at these new ventures. They don't want to, whatever, maybe look stupid when they're a beginner in something else, when they're so used to this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why podcasts are an amazing thing, because you may be living that life of stagnation and be feeling it in your soul every single day when you wake up. But then you listen to different people talk from different walks of life, what they're into, what their viewpoints are. And you're like, oh shit, like I'm not, this world is not stagnation. There's so much out there that people are doing. And it's like the time we're living in now, a lot of people have fixed beliefs. We're divided more than ever. And, people need to look at every side of it and take what they can from everything, not just be focused on one viewpoint. We're divided through politics, through race, through everything you can imagine. And it's not like there's a middle ground. It's either you're completely on that way or completely on that way. And dude, it's sad, man.
It's funny you're bringing that up. I was having a conversation with a homie last night, and we were talking about like the political sphere. He's like a really political guy, way more political than I am. But we were talking about how the unfortunate thing about right now is that everything is like a two-faction thing. Everything is for whatever reason binary. Mm-hmm. Like it's like either you're on one side of this line and you get lumped in with a bunch of beliefs that you might not even agree with, or on the other side of the line, and the same thing happens like over here, like on like the opposite end of the spectrum. And it's like really there should be like 5 lines, or there should it's like not everything is one or the other. And I mean, like we're definitely in that kind of like limiting time period. So it's like doing podcasts,
which sucks because there's the internet. Yeah. So there should be an infinite amount of knowledge at the tip of your fingers, and you can call it. You could, let's say, like those are just words. Oh, I'm listening to a podcast, but you could easily just interchange those words with like, I'm obtaining new ideas. Yeah, 'cause that's what it is.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm researching.
Literally, like when I'm doing this, I am obtaining new ideas. Because listening to a podcast, it's it's just a word, but those words might make it sound like more of a waste of time. You're not necessarily learning, but you actually are. I've learned so much just from listening to other people talk.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Being in rooms like this, because like we do similar things. You guys are podcasters. I'm a podcaster. I learned so much about the world by talking to people and hearing their ideas. There's an episode of Forum that's somewhat recent that was like one of the most illuminating episodes ever, because I just couldn't see myself in I couldn't think like the other person I was speaking to, because they were thinking so differently about living than I was, and like not like a negative or a positive way, just different. Mm-hmm. This guy Jared Carmen, shout out Jared. He's in Trapped Under Ice and Down to Nothing. Like this was somebody that was so comfortable not being tethered to like anything, and like almost like not being secure with anything, and not for lack of control. He's got complete control over everything happening to him. And I was just like, whoa. Like I was like, it was like kind of like my mind was being blown, because I was like, you usually associate people that are not tied down to things as being unstable, but that was not the energy here. There was stability in not being tied down to things. You learn stuff new every day. I mean, it's just you get a different perspective and a different viewpoint all the time, and it's cool. Like it's it's okay, you referenced like that song earlier, and I would reference stuff later in Breakaway on the second LP about being like equal parts Athens as equal parts Sparta.
Yes.
It's like you want to like be like the poet and like the you want to be like immersed in like knowledge and learning and everything like that. And you also want to take care of yourself and be a strategist. Yes. And strong, and
I loved that those dudes from those time periods could be boxers and wrestlers, but they were also philosophers and scientists.
Exactly.
They weren't just. There's this idea that you can only be one thing.
You should try to be everything. I mean, there's a line where you like don't want to like
thin your like spread yourself too thin.
Be a jack of all trades is a master of none.
Yeah.
Maybe focus on a couple things that are like you're really good at, but don't limit yourself to those things. You know.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
Thanks for
really
having me on,
enjoyed
guys.
this.
No doubt. Beautiful stuff.
Peace.